So every week, Kevin gets hundreds of questions about high intensity training from natural lifters all over the world. And a lot of the questions end up being the same. And what a lot of these guys are wondering is if they can maintain the same level of intensity of training as they get older. So what we're going to do today is that we pulled 5 of the most common questions that we get on Kevin's videos, and we're going to have Kevin talk about them. No script, nothing fancy, just 30 years of experience talking here today. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So the first question is it okay to cheat a little bit when I'm getting in my reps in order to push past failure?
Good question. And, there's a lot of, we call the form police out there who are all about every single repetition has to be perfect. And they tend to look at weight training and weightlifting as an art. This is not about doing anything like that. The whole idea behind high intensity training or natural bodybuilding in general is changing your body. It's not powerlifting. It's not doing the exercise per se a particular way. It's finding a way to make the exercise as difficult as possible. And if you're training to your limit and you're really going all out, your first rep cannot be as perfect as your last rep. Over time, as you get closer and closer to motor muscular failure, your ability to go through a full range of motion is going to decrease. You're also going to start implementing other muscle groups. You're going to start doing what they call it cheating, which is, a horrible word for it. I don't think it should be called cheating.
Right.
I like the idea instead of using the word putting more muscles to allow the movement to happen, because that's natural. If you're doing anything naturally and you find yourself in difficulty, you're not going to isolate your biceps to keep on lifting it. You're going to start using a little bit of your legs. But the important part is that you're grounded in a way whereby you're always focusing on trying to minimize any lower back involvement. And you're still trying to take the exercise to go make it harder. You're not trying to make it easier. And I don't have this idea that, cheating or, having partial reps is somehow or the other like inferior, but it's kind of the natural way that your body works. And if you're trying to bring about the adaptive response, you need to be focused on the idea of trying to train in a way where it's unaccustomed stimulus that brings about overload. And to do that, if your first rep is exactly the same as your last rep, it means you're already adapted to it. And therefore it's not unaccustomed stimulus and you're not going to grow. So absolutely don't be afraid of it. People will say whatever they say about your training form, that and the other, as long as you're within safe parameters. And of course, when we train our clients, we're always making sure that they stay within safe parameters. You'll be absolutely fine.
So intensity high, injury risk low.
Yes.
Awesome. So the next question that I have is, say I have a physical job. Should I train differently from someone who is more active in the workplace?
That's a perfect question. I'm really glad that we get to go to that one. When I first started doing naturally intense high intensity training, most of my clients were, in Fifth Avenue gym in Brooklyn. And a lot of them were construction workers, postal workers, people who were on their feet all the time. Some of them are really physically demanding jobs. And what I found over the years, I initially had an idea, well, all right, if someone is, let's say a mason or a carpenter, maybe I shouldn't train them as hard as someone who is, has a desk job working in an office. But it really didn't make any difference. As long as you're training 3 days a week, you need to have exactly the same intensity as anybody else doing the program. There's no, well, I have a physical job whereby I can't do it. If somehow or the other you're in a place whereby you're not able to train because, you make the call and feel that that's not your day to train, that's absolutely fine. So if you have a job that's physically demanding and you have some time where you feel like, I don't think I can give it my all today, by all means, listen to your body. But as far as, does it make a difference in the way you should train or should you train with less intensity? Absolutely not. Now, that being said, you're going to be extremely sore when you first start doing this type of training. Extremely sore, debilitatingly so. So your first couple of days on the job with this forward training will be really hard. But over the course of a couple of weeks, your body starts to adapt and it's something you can definitely do. And again, we've trained so many with really physical jobs. And like I said, I'd probably say 80% of my clients for my first 15 years had really physical jobs, and they were absolutely fine doing the workouts with the same intensity as anybody who was doing a less active job.
Yep. Awesome. So I'm 50 years or older, obviously. Can I still build muscle, or is it too late?
That one is a hard one.
Right.
And that there's so many people out there who will look at me and say, well, Kevin can't be natural because it's not possible to build muscle if you get older or maintain that much muscle as you get older. But, you've been training clients now for about 10 years and you see it. I really wish you all could see the clients we've had over the years.
Yeah.
We've had clients who've come to us in their late 40s, never trained a day in their life,
Yeah.
and competed in natural bodybuilding competitions in their 50s. You can build muscle in your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, your 70s, your 80s, even your 90s. I had a client of mine who came and he was in his 90s and he said that the biggest lament that he had was that he always worked with people, with other trainers, where they kind of go easy on him. But the idea, you can't build muscle at this age because somehow or the other, things work differently. And they didn't push him that hard. And again, I push someone who is on the older side just as much as I push somebody in their 20s or their teens. It's all relative to what you can do. And if you're pushing to that unaccustomed stimulus place, like I always say, you will get muscle growth. Protein synthesis does not stop because you hit a certain age. Hormonal responses are not going to be the same for someone, let's say, who's a teenager, compared to someone who's, in their 50s or 60s.
Yep.
However, it still is going to happen. You're still going to build muscle mass. It is a myth. There's so much nonsense out there trying to get men, especially on TRT, saying if you don't take TRT, you can't build muscle. It is absolutely not true. And if you train your entire life, someone like me who's been lifetime natural your entire life, again, lifetime natural is important because if you start using drugs, your testosterone levels aren't going to be normal. But if you train naturally your entire life, there's no difference whatsoever in your muscle building ability into, I'd probably say, your 50s, given the fact that most of the competitors who we saw over the years who would consistently win bodybuilding competitions, a large number of them are in their 40s and their 50s, especially female competitors. So you really need to start thinking about looking at more natural athletes, and there aren't that many who are truly natural, and see what they've done and have them be an inspiration. Because I think what happens as well is a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. You have it in the back of your mind that you can't build muscle, so you don't train as hard. You take your foot off the gas, but you can. You absolutely can, and you absolutely should give it everything you should to make as much gains as possible, the same as if in your 20s, because you will make some pretty significant gains.
Agreed. So funny. So our number 4 question, you kind of picked at it just now, but number 4 is, I'm over 60. Can I still do high intensity training or should I tone things down a bit? So let's reemphasize that point.
Yeah. Again, we have clients in their 60s, their 70s, and their 80s, consistent clients. Some of them with us for over a decade. And the training is the same. And it's probably interesting that with naturally intense high intensity training, you're training nonstop. It's nonstop. You're going, which requires a significant cardiovascular fitness level to be able to get through the workout. Your muscles have to be bigger and stronger over time. Yes, it's an adaptive response, but your cardiovascular system and your muscular endurance also has to be pretty high. So the funny thing that always happens over the years is that we have clients who are older and they'll have their younger family members, usually teenagers in college, come try a workout out. And what they tend to find is that they can't keep up with people who are their aunts, their mothers, and their grandmothers, because
if they've been doing this training,
you get conditioned. And I think, again, it all goes to the idea that you have to not put a limit on yourself. Don't think that because you're getting older, that somehow or the other, you don't need to push it anymore. You need to be very, very, careful about hurting yourself. You do, absolutely. If you have some injuries, you got to be judicious about it.
Yes.
But muscles get bigger from unaccustomed stimulus that goes to the point of overload that brings about an adaptive response. Whether you're a teenager or you're older, you need to be training to that point of, if not momentary muscular failure, but always doing something that's going to bring about an adaptive response you're not used to, which means being uncomfortable, but it doesn't necessarily mean that, you're going to hurt your joints or get hurt. And I think one of the benefits of this form of training as well, because of naturally intense, we're always changing every single workout. You don't have the overuse injuries. And so our clients are able to, in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, and 90s as well, to train really hard because they don't get injured.
So it can be done.
It can be done. Now, if you have injuries, most people coming to us who haven't been with us will come to us with injuries, and you can go around it. And I always say this, whatever you can do as hard as you can. It doesn't make a difference. The fact that you're a little bit on the older side, you can do a lot more than you think.
Yeah. So that brings us to the last question that I have for you, Kevin. And that is, I train regularly. Do natural lifters need to take a deload week, or can they train consistently nonstop?
Okay. I didn't know what deload meant. I had no idea what it meant. It's literally several years ago, somewhere in the 2000s, someone asked me that question. I had to look up what deload meant. So no, I've been training this way now for over 30 years. I've never taken an easier week. We train together. We've trained together now for 10 years. There's no such thing as a going easy. And I think the problem is that, yes, periodization does exist. And there is a way of training whereby, you kind of gear up everything towards, let's say, a particular tournament or competition that you do.
Right.
That's pretty much standard athletics. And, in bodybuilding as well, some people train that way. But with this particular form of training, because every single workout is different, and because the fact that you're only training 3 days a week for about, let's say, a half hour, 40 minutes max, there's no need to deload. And what I've found over the years is that 3 days a week is a sweet spot. If you go any less than that in terms of your training days, you don't get optimal results. If you take your intensity down, you don't get optimal results. So I would say no. There's no reason to do it, because if we have over all these years people who don't get injured, they get in the gains that they're looking for, their joints are in good health, there's no reason to deload whatsoever. I'd probably say that given the fact that people who train at lower intensities have less results than those who are able to really push it, that it's absolutely not necessary.
Agreed.
Now, that being said, if for some reason you're on vacation or something happens, you're fine. You can go 2 weeks, don't train, come back in the gym. You'll probably even be a little bit stronger because you had a little more recovery time, but you can't do it consistently.
So that's all 5 questions. Anything that you want to add before?
Yes, I want to add a little bit more going into the whole idea of, getting older. We had our friend, Mr. America, John Hart here, and John's in his 60s. And,
I would not have guessed.
Absolutely. And how do we train? We train exactly the same as I train someone in their 20s, their teens, their 30s, no difference. It comes down to mindset and understanding that if you really want to build muscle, that your muscles are exactly the same and follow the same rules of biology that they did in your 20s. So you have to push it. Don't be afraid to push it. And you can always do a lot more than you think.
So if your question did not make it into this video, please leave a comment below so we can see about bringing it into the next one that we make. And please also make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. We want these videos to get out to as many natural lifters and people as possible.
Thanks so much for tuning in. And as always,
Excelsior.